All right, we are live. All right, so we're going to be doing a couple things today. I'm going to warm up a little bit, play one of my favorite Baya exercises. Then we're going to recap part 1 and 2 of beginner Tabla lessons, and then we'll get to today's topic. So let me just warm up a bit, hear myself a little bit, and we'll get started. All right. Tabla has a bit of a buzz to it, but the point is you don't always need the best tabla to really practice on. But anyways, so for this, what I really am looking for is not speed, but kind of how much volume I can get out of the Baya. That's one of the things on here. So I'll just play this for about a minute or two, and then we'll go from there. We'll make sure to hit record. All right, now we're good. So. All right, we can now get started. Namaste in the chat. Very nice to have you here. Very nice, as usual. All right, so we're going to cover briefly part 1 and 2 that we did in the previous days. And then we're going to get started with today's broadcast. All right? Okay, so I believe 2 days ago we started Tabla for beginners. And let me just make that. Should be a bit easier to see now on your phone. It should look wider at least. Anyways, so we have this here. So there was a lot in this. It was a bit scattered. So I'm just going to briefly go over it. You know, the setup and posture, I think everyone already knows. You know, be seated comfortably, have the, what do you call them? The rings. Have the rings touching your knees. So that's good. Make sure you're not too hunched over. We talked a bit about preventing injuries. So you shouldn't really be in any sort of major amount of pain when playing tabla, especially starting out. If you do, feel free to email me and ask me about that, because that could lead to, more injuries later on. So most likely, if you are feeling some sort of pain just starting out, it's because you're too tense. So this right here, very important point. Just relax the shoulders and the wrists. All right? So a relaxed strike versus a tense strike. We'll get to that in just a moment. We talked about na a good bit. I probably mentioned at least 20 times that when you play na, That is one thing to be the most strict about if you're trying to learn tabla on your own. This is one thing that you just have to be very diligent about. No matter what you're playing, you just can't forget about the na positioning. And just going over it again one more time. These two fingers are your anchor. They do not move. Do not move. All right? Then you kind of space your hand out like this. Not too little, not way too much like this. Just a decent amount of space that feels comfortable. And just rotate the wrist like this. You can hear the buzzing in the tabla. It's slightly broken. All right. So na is very important. We have ga and kat. So ga, that's the two. We notate that as the two, the middle and index. And we have just the index. Sorry, I meant the middle and ring with these two and the index. So this would be 1 and this is 2. And that'll make sense once you see the notation. Anywhere you see a 1 above ga, you play this. Anywhere a 2, this. All right? So that's that. This is kat. We all know this. Nothing too complicated. So yeah, a good bit of practice is just alternating like this. Na and ga make dha. Like that. Now, one thing to keep in mind is I play from here. So everything I do, look at it like I'm playing it this way, right at you. I know I should fix that, but we're talking about preventing injuries. I don't like my shoulders so compressed like that. I like to kind of sit to a side like that. So over time, if you do have some sort of injury like that, you can sort of adapt the playing. But at first, just make sure your technique is correct. So na and ga, or ga, to combine makes dha. All right, so this is dha one more time. Dha. All right, then we have tete. We had a very good question on should tete be played like this, like you're swiping butter, or should you play it like this? When you're just starting out, just up and down vertically. Just like that, just to start with. Later on, your wrist will loosen up and it'll be fine. All right, so we went over tete, hun, and hin. So these are kind of complicated. So the motion on the daya is like this. All right. It's probably a bit easier if you look at my profile view so you can see how much I'm coming off the daya. Don't look at the close-up camera, look at the profile view. So that's this side. Tun would be this. Hin is the opposite. So this. So tun and hin. So just that. All right. And we have those. Then we have some basic phrases we went over. Ghege tete, ghege nana. So this is important to help with alternating. All right, we did this. We started, let's see, the first composition. Dha dha tete, dha dha tunna, na na tete, dha dha dhinna. Now I'm just going to go over the main theme, not the variations. But there's something very important on this that you should practice. So when you're playing dha, dha, te, te, so from here, practice going back to the na nicely. So let's say you play dha, dha, te, te from here. So go from here to there. So as soon as you play this te, start back here at this anchor point and play it gracefully. Make this movement gracefully. Don't pick your hand up. Don't put it this way or anything. Just te, na. So dha, dha, te, te. Now again, see? And now na and ga together. Dha, dha. And then tun. Make sure after the tun, you're coming back nice and gracefully. So tun, like that. Very important point. So dhada tete, dhada tunna, nana tete, dhada dhinna. So the second part is na, na, te, te, dha, dha, dhin, which remember is tun with the ga, basically dhin, na. All right, so that's this composition. And I did type out tintal because we were going a bit longer that stream, but that is how that works. All right, that is how that works. So that's day one. That's basically day one. All right, now we will exit out of this and go to day two. Okay, all right. I noticed when I listen back to these streams, I say all right quite a bit, so I'll try doing that a bit less. Okay, so we have tintal, dha, dhin, dhin, dha, dha, dhin, dhin, dha, na, tin, tin, ta, ta, dhin, dhin, dha. I showed you guys how to clap to this. It's important to know. If you don't know that, we can go back and look, unless you guys want me to cover that again. But it's pretty basic. Now, one twist here was I just told you about a minute ago, dhin was this. But there's another dhin played here. Like that. So na with the fingertip is played, so na. With this fingertip right here. Then with the groove, you play slightly more inside. Now, between day one and day two, you should do a lot of practicing. All right? It's not just you can go exactly the next day. You really need to work a good bit on the day one material before you can play dhin properly. So I'll explain it one more time. So na with the fingertip, tin with the groove, and tin plus ga makes dhin. So dhin. That wasn't that good. So this is dhin. Right there. So that's dhin. We explained the Kali Bhari system. It's important to know for compositions. We've covered all these different bowls, these different warm-up phrases. I've cut these and made these into shorts as well for you guys to view. If ever you just need to find something quickly, you don't want to go through the stream. So that's all right there. We talked about powder. Actually, we talked about powder on day one. Someone asked in the chat, and we went over this. So we also talked about don't attempt tuning. I know that's you in the chat. So don't try to tune. No metronomes yet. Not yet. We talked about the notation like this, pretty straightforward. And then I'm just going to cover this qaida, and then I'm going to start with today's presentation, which isn't really more beginner material. It's just overall guidance that will really help you deepen your riyaz and will help you get better in a faster amount of time. So I'll get more into that in just a moment. But the reason why I chose this topic to cover is because with tabla playing, the initial phase to start really enjoying it can take a bit of time. But what I would love to see is people just getting to that point where they really start liking it. Then you don't need tutorials. You don't really even need a teacher. Your passion, your love for the instrument will carry you. All right? So this right here, dha, te, te, dha. So I almost started reading that like the last composition. So dha, te, te, dha, te, te, dha, dha, te, te, dha, ge, tunna, kena. Now this is a bit complicated. It has the twos right here. So let me zoom in on this a bit. Perfect. Let me just go up. All right. Zoom out slightly. Okay, good. I think this is much better readable than before. Okay, so dha te te, dha te te. So dha is non-ga. So with the two, dha te te. Te te is an upward motion. So dha te te, dha te te. Now 1 and 2 on the baya. Dha te te, dha ge tun na ke na. Tinna, tunna, same thing basically. Now, then we have the second part, which is called the Kali. And I explained that previously. You can go take a look. Ta, te, te, ta. Ta is basically na. Ta, ti, te, ta, ti, te, dha, dha, te, te, dha, ge, dhin, na, ge, na. Okay? So this is important to really get down. Really, really important. And one of the most important things is there's all this stuff here. There's how to play, the dha, the tete, and all this. That's why I recommend really work on day 1 as much as you can before going to day 2. Otherwise, it will be overwhelming. But it's good you know the material, however. So when you're playing all this, the baya, you're going to lose track of the na positioning. That's why I call this the anchor. In fact, I heard another teacher call it that. That's why I call it that. This is the anchor. It doesn't move. Now, you don't apply so much pressure that you can't do anything, but enough pressure that it doesn't get shaken around. All right? You can obviously play na. And then when you play tete, you pick it up. But when you're playing na, it's rock solid. And of course, this finger should just be touching the syahi. All right? We also went over the parts of the tabla briefly. Gajra, syahi. This is the maidan or the sur as people call it. And then, of course, these pegs that I guess you can't really see called gatta. Okay, so I believe that is everything from day 1 and day 2. If there's any questions, I'll stay on this for just a moment. We stopped at the 3rd palta. I thought that there was some more time needed before we could go further because there's things with pauses. And first, you kind of have to be able to play the main theme without any gaps, meaning play it on beat. So after you can do that, then all these gaps and all of this will make a lot more sense. And no, don't use a metronome to just start with. Okay? So that's day 1 and day 2. It's a lot of fun. It can be a bit overwhelming, but the best thing about it being in video form, not going to some teacher's house, is you can take your time with it. You can really, kind of relax and, do a little bit every day. Day 1 and day 2 are enough material for about a week or 2 each to work on. So make sure you really nail it all in. Nail it all in, all right? So that's the recap of day 1 and day 2. So now we're going to talk about practical tips for the modern Ustad. Okay? Let me just full screen this and zoom out. Okay. So this is for when you're a bit more into tabla, when you really start loving it. If you're just starting out and you were able to do everything in this document, I would be just blown away. In fact, I would love to talk to you. If you are someone that sees all this and you can do all this just starting out, please write to me and tell me who you are. I'd love to know you. All right? So this is really for people that want to go really deep with tabla playing. Everything I like to do in general, I like going really deep into it. I don't like just doing the surface level of really anything. So this is kind of a deeper approach to tabla, lifestyle changes and things that'll just really help your practice, and it really won't take much time or effort if you do these things. So let me just get right to it. So one personal note is, even though I love tabla quite a bit, as you guys can tell, there have been challenges, and I've wondered, hey, I have the material, I have the time, why am I not practicing? Why am I not motivated? What's happening? I have injuries, this and that. So there have been a lot of challenges, as there are in almost every tabla player's life. But I've made some realizations now. I started when I was 5 or 6 years old. I'm about to turn 31, so I've had a good bit of time kind of understanding the challenges and how to kind of overcome them. Okay, so the first thing, and this is kind of a lifestyle thing. Namaste, Jayant. Hope you're doing well. So this is one of the first things we're going to talk about, is the constant consumption of modern day life. So this is something, as a tabla player, be very mindful of. How much in a day are you consuming? And I don't just mean food, Although if you eat a lot of food, you'll probably be a bit lethargic. You won't practice a lot. That's a separate stream. And to be honest, I'm not the best person to talk about that. But I'm talking more about digital consumption. For example, how many songs are you listening to with your headphones? How many videos are you watching? Things like that. See, the more things that you watch, the more things you consume, there's something called a dopamine threshold that you have, and that gets set higher and higher, meaning you have to watch more and more things to feel happy. And once that kind of happens, you lose the motivation to practice. Think about one interesting thing. How come back in the day, you'll hear about tabla players talking about this, that they could only hear Ustad Zakir Hussain once a month on All India Radio. You guys have probably heard this back in the day. And they would wait for it, and they would be so inspired, it would fuel their entire month's practice. But now you can literally watch Ustad Zakir Hussain all day, every day, all of his solos. But there are less people playing at that level. It's because once you start watching, you just kind of keep watching. And actually sitting down with your instrument doesn't seem that entertaining. So you have to be very mindful of your consumption, basically. And of course, a little sprinkle of science. Dopamine is involved in reward. And the thing is with tabla, when you practice, and let's say you've been watching a lot of content, you'll play, but you won't get that feeling of reward. So if you just kind of consume a little bit less, meaning listen to maybe less songs, watch a little bit less content, your practice will be a lot better. And there's one other thing about tabla playing, is there's some things in life where as soon as you start them, there's so much fun. For example, watching TV or video games, things like that. As soon as you start, you have a lot of fun. But in the long run, they take your time and they don't really give anything back. Tabla playing is something that in the beginning, maybe it's not the easiest thing to really love, but as you get into it in the back end, it gives so much that, to be honest, it gives so much. That's the whole reason I even started this channel. So that's the first thing. Now, the second thing is the power of silence. And this ties in exactly into point number one. So I went on a walk this morning, and every person I saw had their headphones in, and there's nothing really wrong with that. You know, I'm not really against technology or anything like that. To be honest, I love technology. But the point I'm trying to make here is that there has to be periods of silence for you to kind of really listen to the things around you. Think about the different tabla compositions we hear. We have something called rela, with the sounds like, things like that, which is rela came from rail, so the train. So that was tabla players. They didn't have YouTube back then. They would just listen to the things around them and get inspired by that. And that's how they would come up with different compositions. So there has to be some silence in your life. It just can't be all day podcasts and all day music. For a long time, the entire last year, I basically lived like that there was no moment of silence. It was always some content just always playing. So that was one thing. And the other thing about always listening to other music is you get very influenced by it. You've probably seen the trend of all these tabla covers on YouTube. One person hears another person do it, then they feel like doing it. And by the way, I'm someone that has uploaded a few covers in my day as well. Not anymore, but I have. And it's all because I see one person, I see they're getting a lot of views, and then I want to do that. So if you keep listening to things all day, you lose your originality. So that's another thing, all right? So let's say, you really want to go deep with this. You really want to take this to the next level. You're understanding that silence gives you both depth and originality. Then this is something I just did last month, December 10th to 20th. And what I was really impressed to hear is that there was other people on this channel that learn. They were also doing this as well. So I was super impressed. And that is basically Vipassana. And I would never believe that I'd be recommending this, but as far as understanding silence and improving just your tabla playing, this is game changing. And I know it seems like, how? I'm just sitting around and, I'm not practicing, but just try it. And once you're done with it, the power of silence will just be yours. Your playing will have so much more depth to it. And not only that, you'll become much less consumptive, meaning you'll be more someone that likes to do things constructive rather than just consume all the time. So this right here, absolute game changer. So yes, Vipassana helped me train internal silence, noticing distraction clearly and returning again and again. The point isn't forcing focus, it's building the skill of coming back. Yes, we already talked about the dopamine threshold as well. You don't want it too high, meaning, it takes a lot for you to enjoy things. Otherwise, it'll be very hard to enjoy practicing tabla. All right? And I already said this as well. Tabla may not be as stimulating when you first start, but later on, it gives back in abundance. All right? Okay, so next we'll talk about actual practice and how you can make that frictionless. So one thing you want to do is when you are starting to get into tabla more, don't keep your tabla in a closet, in a bag somewhere where it takes you 15 minutes to take it out, undo the covers, set it up. Keep it somewhere with the covers on it that you'll see often, and make it so that you can start anytime within a minute or two. Don't even too much worry if you're just starting out about if it's in tune. You can do that in the middle of your practice. Just get started and you'll enjoy it. Okay, so when time is short, frequent sessions are more realistic, okay? And yes, environmental cues make behaviors easier to repeat. I tried to make all of this as practical as possible, so I put in bits of, studies and things like that to kind of make it more practical, like I just said. Okay, next is Lara and apps. Okay, now this is something that, again, most of last year, actually almost all of last year, I didn't have even one practice without a Lara. Every practice needed a Lara, and guess what? The Lara was the opening to my phone, my messages, my YouTube app, all sorts of things that I would do once I was on my phone. It was just a distraction. And really, one thing about Laras is, as good as they are, as much as they inspire so many tabla players to play, they also do have a downside, which I've never heard anyone really talk about, but they do have a downside. For example, if you saw me in the intro, I was playing this composition, so I was playing that, and then I felt the need to slow down. So I felt my baya could be louder. It could be... Do you see that? Like that. Even louder than I was playing. If I had a Lara, I'd have to pick my hand up off the tabla, change the tempo, and then see, wait, is this too fast? Is this too slow? And that's how I would be practicing, which is just a major distraction. So I really don't recommend Lara apps that much. If you do want to use one, I recommend Lara Box, because it's just a 16-beat metronome. And I believe in the chat yesterday we were talking about a metronome. Try this app, Lara Box. It's not free. I think it costs a few dollars here, not much. But it is the best Lara if you are going to use one. Don't use one where, it's a beautiful sarangi, although that is fun if you're on stage. If you have a performance, then use a Lara like that. But then with that, you set it, you have to tune to it. It's just a waste of time. And most of today, what I'm saying is for, I said, the modern Ustad. And in modern day, we're busy. We have a lot of things going on. We don't have all the time in the world to really, just be endlessly practicing. So this is to make your practicing as efficient as possible. All right. And yes, silence is a legitimate training tool. It strengthens the internal lay and listening. For example, there's many ustads that their spacing in between each bull is actually even better than a Lara. Now, that can only be done by listening, silence, listening, silence. They just are deep in that cycle, and that's the only way that, it can be that good. Okay? So that's the Lara app. Next, we'll talk about being part of a Tabla community. So as you guys know, I have 2 Tabla communities. One's on school. It's tabla.club-school. You could go there. The other one is the Discord, and both have a few hundred people on there. Now, it's fantastic to be a part of a community like that, but one thing you don't want to do is you don't want to wait for a practice buddy, meaning you don't want to wait around and only practice when your friend is available. You don't want to just basically live like that. Practicing tabla, unless you have a sibling who started the same day as you, is mostly an individual thing. You have to sit and listen on your own. So don't, wait around for a practice buddy. I've seen some posts on Reddit as well where someone is looking for a practice buddy. They'll both, sit together. Hi, Joshua. Nice to have you in the chat. They're basically both, waiting to get on Zoom. They'll go on mute. They'll kind of stare at each other awkwardly. It's just not the best. It's an individual thing to do. And in fact, now that Josh was here in the chat, you should check out his channel. He actually calls his videos sadhana. And that's something that, as far as I know, there's no such thing as group sadhana. It's an individual thing. I could be wrong. Maybe there is group sadhana, but it's an individual practice that you do for the most part. It is a lot of fun. I've had a lot of fun collaborating with people all around the world. But when it comes to practicing, I've realized that making practice groups or practicing with other people has never really been that practical. All right? So here we go. How to structure practice. Clarity first, speed later. Awesome, man. Yeah, really love your content. All right, so how to structure practice. So when you are practicing, you really want to emphasize slow and clear as much as you can. Because here's the thing, I've listened to a lot of the clips people post in the communities that they've sent me, and for the most part, it's speed over clarity. But when you want to practice, you want to do slow and clarity as much as you can. For the most part, we're all building our foundation. Once you have a solid foundation, then, of course, you don't really need to look anyone to teach you. You just need to keep developing your sound. But you need to get that initial clarity. So don't play too fast, all right? And as far as clarity, I can demonstrate pretty well clarity at a slow speed for most things. When it comes to playing faster, I'm not the best expert at that. There's people that play really well fast and clear. You can also find them and listen to them. But like I said before, balance your consumption of tabla. So most of your practice should be slow and clear. But then near the end, you should kind of push yourself, be sweating a bit, be kind of, uncomfortable. There should be part of your practice that you are uncomfortable. That can either be with the weight you're putting down or the speed. And about 10 to 20% of your practice like that is good. Last year, I was trying about 1/3 of my practice was just fast. And I felt that a little bit my hands are becoming light. So that's why I've now kind of pushed this down to 10 to 20%. Of course, I'm giving you percentages. What would go even beyond percentages would be using your own intuition, your own discernment. Then you'll know exactly what to do. But that does take some time to get. I don't know anyone that has that discernment day one. So basically, what does clarity mean and how to learn it? It means that as you go faster, each bowl has its place. For example, we've done simple compositions like da, de, da, de, like that. Each space, each bowl has its own space. Like if I played, I could do a demonstration like it becomes very muffled. It loses its, that kind of sharp sound that it had. It loses that. And you don't want your tabla playing to do that, because once you go down the track of being muffled, it's kind of difficult. If you go down it for a year or two, by muffled, I mean quiet, not very loud and clear. It's kind of difficult to fix that later. And in the chat, we're seeing BPM numbers are great too. Yeah, it definitely is. And your videos, I believe you share the beats per minute. They're really good, really good. And as far as creating content, I would definitely use Alera. But for, my own practice, I just find it distracting to be near a phone. If you have maybe another device that can play Alera, that'd be great too. But yes, you can definitely share beats per minute. That's where the community aspect comes out really well, where after you're done practicing, you can share, oh, I played at this speed, I was getting a lot of clarity, so that's where beats per minute are really good. What tends to happen in the community is people like to brag that, oh, I played hit it at 150 beats per minute. Whenever I read something like that, it really means nothing unless there's some audio attached, because 90% of the time, probably 80 to 90% of the time, it's just someone playing that fast and there's no clarity. So that's where, I keep saying emphasize clarity over speed. So we talked about how to structure practice, what clarity means and how to learn it. Basically, it means every bowl, everything you play is an even volume. Now, that may sound boring at first, but you're learning control. Now, there's a lot of places that, I see people miss clarity. One of the best is, for example, dhene gene. So this ne right here, when people play dhene gene, one more time. So right there. So you have to make that ne, make sure that's clear. It's the last bowl usually in things that get messed up. For example, if you're playing 3-finger terekete, you would play terekete. Make sure that last one, that one, make sure even, they're all the same volume. Like that. Everything even on the volume. If you're playing dhere dhere, make sure both sides are even volume. That's what clarity means. I could go on and on, but I'll do entire streams on clarity. And if you have questions on that, feel free. So that's clarity. Now we'll just, briefly talk about exercise and posture, things like that, things that have helped me quite a bit. So the thing about tabla playing that kind of worries me that I didn't realize for a long time is that you are hunched forward, and let's say you're reading your notes, you're kind of really hunched forward, looking down, your lower back is curved, and over time, it can hurt your spine. And basically, that's something that you really want to be mindful of. Now, my solution to that is just to basically stand and play. It's not the easiest thing to do. I do find it much more fulfilling, but you want to, if you are going to sit and play, which is the traditional way, and not only that, I think it does sound better to some degree when you sit and play, you do want to be mindful of your posture. So when it comes to also exercising, I made a stream a few days ago, and I talked about how weightlifting isn't good, but it got interpreted by some people, and I saw the comments that I'm just saying don't exercise at all. My point was anything that you grip really hard will tense up your forearm, and that'll kind of make it difficult for you to play tabla properly and fast. And by the way, there's a lot of other ways to train. You guys can look that up. This isn't a fitness channel. I'm no real expert at that. But one great way to train would be, and this comes from Indian culture, mace bell. We call that the gada. Or there's also something called the Indian swinging club. Now, I can briefly just look up the Indian swinging club so you guys have an idea. I was going to bring mine, but let's see. Indian swinging club. Let's see what comes up. Yes. So things like this right here. These were, I don't know how well you guys can see that, but basically these are things you swing for your shoulder, and they are so good at training the shoulder and the back. Yes, look at how much this is. I don't know how well you guys see this, but look at how much this will open up your shoulder, your back. Really important for tabla playing right there. So look into that. There's just a lot of ways to train besides just going and just lifting weights and doing that. But definitely look into Indian club swinging. It's fantastic for your shoulders and all that. And one reason I also talk about weightlifting, why I'm not the biggest fan, and this is just a really short personal story, is so I played tabla a good bit. I didn't practice a lot when I was younger. I was hunched forward a lot, looking down, making sure my clarity was there and all that. And my shoulders were hunched forward too long. I would go to the gym and try to do a upright press. And what happened is because I'm so hunched forward, my shoulder, I think, like came out of its socket and I tore a tendon. So since then, I've been really just mindful about posture and all of this stuff, injury. That's something I can talk a lot about. Now, mostly people don't like when I do streams like this. They like when I just talk about the bulls. A lot of people say, hey, just get back to giving us luggies and things like that. But when you've had your shoulder tendon tear, and it was right before my Munch Pravesh, my recital, and that recital was with Pandit Ramesh Mishra. I was 17. That was a very stressful time in my life. So if someone had made content about fixing your shoulder for tabla playing, Indian club swinging, all that stuff, I would have been very grateful. So mobility work matters right here. We talked about already the Gada and Indian swinging clubs. Excellent for your shoulder. And yeah, a short bout of Indian club swinging has been studied for acute changes in shoulder mobility and strength. And there's this study if you want to look into that. So really important for your shoulder and taking care of yourself. And as far as playing tabla, if you do, go heavier on the Indian club swinging, it'll really help with your baya. I've heard a lot of tabla players in Banaras with really sweet bayas. They did a lot of this kind of wrestling and kind of mace bell, gada, things like that. And their baya has come out really strong and really well. The baya has a lot to do with the rear delt and the back, so it would help with that. But again, this is more for if you want to go deeper. If you're just starting out, just worry about 1, 2, cut, and all that stuff. You can add this in later. It's a good tip just in general. So there's that. Lastly, and I think this is the last point I'm making, more about posture. Yes, here's where I was going to say I tore a shoulder tendon weightlifting, and it was very stressful. Sleeping on the floor also, and I know just some of the stuff I'm saying. Oh, can I tell about Chilla, 41 days of practice? Okay, now that is deeper than I have gone. At some point, I would love to do that, but that right there is good. That is next level of 41 days. So I did 10 days of Vipassana, which was no phone, no anything, no phone, very little food, no real tea or anything to drink, no real luxuries at all. And you had to wake up really early. I did 10 days of that, and I found it really hard. If you're doing 41 days of Chilla, I mean, first of all, you have to be doing well, economically, because, you can cut everything out for 41 days and do that. So that's one thing. Monetarily is what I mean. Second of all, you probably don't have a family or kids or anything like that. So there's a lot of constraints to Chilla. That would be beyond kind of the scope of this, but I'm sure it's amazing. I probably would want to do it this year or next year. In fact, I'm going to actually try my best to do it this year. And that is crazy. I thought it was 40 days. I didn't know 41. But for those of you that don't know what Chilla is, it's something that all of these Ustads have done where it's, I think, just morning to evening practice, and it's 18 hours. Now, on a good day, I'll practice 2.5 hours. So this is well beyond the scope of what I'm doing. So, okay. So what's your practice routine like? Someday I do 2x a day, 1.5 hour regular, and then 30-minute bandish work. That's good. My practice routine like. So I don't practice a lot of fixed compositions. I'm not the biggest fan. I just work on sound quality of different compositions. I like to mess around a little bit, with my practices. I do make myself uncomfortable when I'm practicing, because I think if you sit down to practice and you can just kind of breeze by, it wasn't really practice, you were playing. This is actually an important distinction. There's a difference between playing and practicing. Playing means you're just sitting and playing, having a good time. Practicing means you're uncomfortable. So an hour and a half of uncomfortable practice is a lot. And then 30 minutes of bundish work, it's really good. Here, most of my playing outside is, accompaniment and things like that. I've always wanted to get more into fixed compositions, but basically I make sure all the bowls are covered. Every single aspect of clarity that I can focus on is covered when I practice. So that's really what I do. Because for me, in my position, people send me questions. I have to be able to play any bowl at a good speed, clearly, whenever they ask. So that's kind of why my practice might be a bit different. But if you're doing 2 times a day, 1.5 hours, and then 30-minute bundish work, if you can, send in a clip of your playing. I'd love to hear that. If you want, I'll put the address in the chat. But yeah, definitely, I'd love to hear you're playing, and here's the email. All right, so email me there, send me a clip of you playing, and it'd be great to hear. Okay. All right, so we talked about this. I'll get to my gurus just in one day. Hey, Inderjeet, I was actually just thinking about you today, man. I was gonna message you. It's been a while. I've been wanting to message you for a while, see how things were. Awesome, man. Yeah, and that's crazy. I was just thinking about messaging you today because it's been a while. All right, so we talked about sleeping on the floor, good for tabla posture, and can support alignment. And because people, they have a lot of pain with the shoulders. I'll get to my gurus in just one moment. Let me just finish this. Yes, so pain or injuries, don't just push through blindly if you have pain. Of course, I'm not trying to give medical advice, but, musicians are known to have posture issues. They're definitely, known to have. I'm going to look up one thing. I hope nothing weird comes up, but here. This would be a good, a stretch like this. See what this guy's doing right here. Just anything that, see with tabla, you're hunched forward a lot. So anything that kind of opens up your chest would be really good. I've been sleeping on the floor for 2 decades now. Man, that is awesome. And yeah, it's good you were on vacation, Inderjeet. Now, the reason I didn't answer the guru thing yet is because there's so many people that I've learned from that it's just a long thing. So let me just get this. Last point I think I'm making is I already said the baya has a lot to do with the back. And the daya, there's no really weight training you can do to improve the daya necessarily. You just have to really practice. So there's nothing that you can do. The baya, a little bit. Low scale daya will help a good bit. And anything that makes you more stiff hurts more than it helps. So just whatever you're doing, it's all about looseness and mobility when it comes to this. Don't be extreme about any of this. Lower your baseline dopamine stimulation and make depth possible with silence and things like that. Try Vipassana for any of you guys. Vipassana is like step 1 to doing chilla. So if you can get through that, you're at least one level. And of course, consistently, clarity and originality. It's the main thing. Now, let's talk about, by the way, sleeping on the floor for 2 decades, your posture must be just amazing. Just amazing. I had to actually remove the bed in my room because I was always so tempted. I now am just purely, a small mattress, and mostly I'm on the floor. All right. So as far as my teachers, there have been quite a few. I started here in Houston, Texas, and I had a teacher. I learned from him for a long time. He had great connections. He connected me with Pandit Swapan Chaudhary. Many people, Pandit Ramesh Mishra, Pandit Kumar Bose, they would come by, to their house and things like that. And my interest really grew seeing that. In fact, the day before my recital, Pandit Swapan Chaudhary was giving me tips and guidance and just a lot of stuff. It was fascinating. I've done 10-day course of Vipassana. Awesome. Yeah, it's difficult. I just finished it, and it's something else. It's really impressive. So as far as my other teachers, then I've kind of gone to all the different tabla schools and found some of their students and learned bits from them, whether it be the Banaras, a student of Pandit Kumar Bose. I think Indrajit also knows who I'm talking about. I've learned a good bit from him. A student of Pandit Nayan Ghosh, student of Pandit Anindra Chatterjee. And sometimes I've learned from the main gurus themselves, like from Pandit Anindra Chatterjee. I've had some classes. Now, I have talked about the experiences of those classes. They're not really what you guys, would think. But yeah, I have learned from, a lot of different teachers. Pandit Ramdas Balsule, I've had some classes with him. Long list of people. Just everyone that I could, I tried to learn from. But of course, my main teacher here in Houston, the main gift he gave me was of listening and playing everything loud, setting my hand in basically a loud way. And if ever I was coming to class and one portion wasn't coming clear, he would make me play that portion louder. For example, let me try to give you an example. Let's say I'm playing dhati dhaga na dhate, and the T is just, it's just coming like, like that. He would make me emphasize the thieves. For example, so like that, things like that. He would make me do, and that was such a gift. That right there was such a gift. And of course, no tabla playing is possible unless you have a lot of places to play at and things like that. So it was an important step. So that's kind of my whole learning situation. So that's basically all I had for today. If you guys have, any more questions and things like that, we can go over that. If there's anything you guys had questions on, the previous day's stuff we've done, this document also be as a PDF if you guys need it in the description. Okay, awesome. We have a comment. I learned tabla for 4 years under Swapanji. I stopped as I used the art of understanding to learn on my own. Full kaidas, tukras, chakradars, but there's a format to breaking bandishes down. Interesting. Yeah, definitely I'd want to know more about that format. I definitely want to know because I'm not too familiar with, bandishes like that. So it's really good. And I really like the compositions he plays. Dhagi na dhate dhete dhagi na dhatrake dhete katrake kata 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 kat. Now it could be slightly different than that, but the kata 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 kat, that part, the and he plays it with even more swing to that. Yeah, Joshua is awesome. I like how in his videos he puts his teacher's picture in there. I really like that. So, yeah, that's something I really like. Very. If I had just one teacher, I'd put their photo in. But man, so many different people. This entire frame would just be different people I've learned from. So that's good. But yeah, definitely it's good you've trained 4 years under him. So yeah, if there's any more questions or comments, let me know. If not, I think we've done well today. It was good you all could tune in. I appreciate it. I got to share things that definitely are important to me today. And then from tomorrow, we'll get back to, regular qaida and bulls and things like that. We'll keep going with this qaida tomorrow. Let me show you guys. Let's see. All right. I found that writing on beat, the recitation, I found that writing on beat, the recitation, the technicality, then playing on your knees with the metronome before sitting on a tabla, optimizes your learning. Playing on your knees with the metronome. Interesting. Um, sure. Interesting. Awesome. Yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting. I don't I don't know why necessarily on your knees and with the metronome, but maybe this is more for fixed compositions, I think, to make sure it's landing on some and things like that. But that's basically it. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I don't know exactly how to say your name. Dariel, I guess. But yeah, I didn't know Josh was learned from, wow, a lot of people. I didn't know he learned from Pandit Tanindo Chatterjee. Interesting. Very nice. Maybe we should do a stream together at some point. He also has a great setup. But there'd be a lot, he could show us. He could do a practice with us. He usually does practice with me. Could be practice with us. But he's done well, like his channel. Hey, oh man, we're just talking about you today too, man, Aranya. We're talking about you. I was talking about how one of Pandit Kumar Bose's students have shown me a lot. Yeah, you've done a lot. If anyone here is wondering, the reason I talk so much about the baya, working the index finger, is because of Aranya here. So he's done a lot. He's really helped quite a bit. So I really appreciate that. And I think you're here in Arizona, I think, if I remember correctly. Hopefully that's going well. Doing PhD. It's impressive. Ajay, awesome. Cool. Now I have your name. I'll do my best to remember it. But yeah, awesome. So many people I was just thinking about messaging joined today, so I really appreciate that. Aranya, Inderjeet, it's the old crew. We used to practice a good bit. Yeah, those there's two that Aranya has showed me that I've talked about with you guys. Of course, this one. That one, and of course the other one. Really, really, really nice one. I wish I could hear your bio one more time, Arnya. It's been a long time. It's been a long, long time. And yeah, if you guys have things to share or you guys felt I left out things, definitely, let me know. You can reach out to me. It's not hard to reach out to me. There's so much I've learned from posting videos for the last maybe year. I thought I'd be the one telling other people how to do things. I've probably learned even more than maybe I have shared. It's been amazing. Nothing has done more really than reaching out and just having so many people, respond and give me tips and say, hey, look into this, and this and that. You're in New Mexico, practicing on a friend's tabla, not tabla, over his apartment a few times in a week. Still working on getting my own pair. Yeah, I was going to try to get you one. I was going to try to ship you one, but I have these that I work on, and the rest of mine just somehow broke. So, and the ones and other ones, and the other tablas that I have, I've lent out to students. So I wish I could give you one, man. Sorry. What do you recommend is the best way a tabla player can get more recognition? Would it be from more short form videos compared to longer YouTube videos? Oh, well, the problem with doing short form videos is you get 30 seconds of fame and then people forget you 5 minutes later. So I don't think through short form videos. It can't really be. This is also the other reason that why I make videos like this on topics I like, is because you actually have to be, you can't just be someone with an ultra amount of skill. People can't really relate to that. So one way to get recognition is to actually just be real with people. To say you don't know something when you don't know it, just to be real. You know, that would be one way to get recognition these days. And short form videos, sure, you can make an awesome video where you're playing dhere dhere at 200 BPM. I don't even know if that's possible. Yeshwant can probably do it. But the thing is that no one can really relate to that. Maybe a few thousand people in the Tabla community, they'll be impressed. You know, maybe a few 100,000 people even. But if you want much more recognition than that, you just have to be a real person. And by the way, this is my opinion. So you can just make videos quietly, but why do you think Ustad Zakir Hussain, yes, 100% authenticity. Why do you think Ustad Zakir Hussain was so one of a kind? You know, he wasn't really even technically a tabla player. He was a personality. Is because he would just go everywhere and just be genuine, as far as I know. And that really impressed people. And he gave talks everywhere, at Google, in Japan, just everyone, Harvard, Berkeley, everyone just wanted to talk to him. So Joshua nailed it too, authenticity. You just have to be real now. You know, people, in fact, if you kind of are just so exceptionally good, people actually may get upset at you. People may think it's kind of weird. You know, like, why did you need the urge to push your, like, it's not if you're doing it in a really natural way, you know, you're enjoying yourself, but if you're trying to get recognition and you're just kind of pushing yourself, you're all like kind of scrunched up and you're like looking at every detail of your hand, which is important. But if you're just kind of a try hard, then it's kind of difficult now to get, you know, a lot of recognition like that. People don't really resonate with that as much as they used to. Before, it could just be all about skill and people would love that. Now you can't really be a real try hard. But that still doesn't mean that you shouldn't do chilla and things like that. You should definitely do that. But this is my take on, if you want more recognition, what you should do. So, yeah, it's kind of a long answer. But, yeah. But I don't think short form videos can really get you a lot of recognition. I like what Josh was doing, longer videos, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, you know, and he's helping people out as well. That's a great way. What he's doing, if you go look at his videos, the comments are great. People are very engaged with this content. It's good. There's a lot of likes and things like that, so it's good. It's good what he's doing. What are my thoughts on tabla makers like Kazim Khan Niazi charging over 600-700 per tabla set? Ooh, it's getting controversial. So 600-700. I mean, I can't really denounce anyone in you know, tabla playing and things like that for charging too much. I, you know, do have a YouTube channel, but I'm also in the business of tabla as well. And the prices for classes with me would be on the higher end too. So I'm not going to really kind of tell anyone that, oh, you're charging too much. But to be honest, $650 is what I've paid for this Somnath and this Baya right here. $650 with shipping to the door. And I was happy to pay that, to be honest. I felt that was fine. And appreciate it, Joshua. And then later on, Somnath got me this Daya. I don't know if you guys can really hear that. It's kind of far away. That Daya, he got that shipped to me. And usually I don't really go over prices for makers because maybe they charge everyone something different. But I guess we're just being authentic right now. But yeah, for that one, he charged me $300 for that. I might as well show you guys. Look, let's put the close-up camera. All right, this is from Haridas from a long time ago. He probably charged me $450 for this one. 10 years ago. I'm playing this, and it is cracked. You guys can maybe see it. This is busted. You can even maybe hear the buzzing. I don't know, a little bit. I do play with the sound a bit to make it more easable. Yeah, so... All right, so yeah, that's kind of, right there. So it's not in the best shape. So this is from Haridas, probably around 400, 450. So that's that one. We're having a little tabla show and tell here. Okay, so this is what I got. This, if you guys saw my videos in the beginning, it was a while ago, about a year and a half ago. I started with this tabla. And I do have to change the settings. For each tabla, I have a different EQ profile because I love sound. So it's not really on right now. I could turn it on, but it doesn't matter. Anyways, the point is this set right here was, I think, 650. So that's this one. And then after that, there's a higher pitch one as well, which I'll grab. Hey, Sandy, how are you? I don't think I've seen you on a stream before. And this is, the one that I had a concert somewhere, and I needed a C-sharp tabla, and he got me this in 2 weeks. So that's that. I'm fine. Awesome. Good to know, Sandy. Good to know. So yeah, I don't really have a big issue. Sorry about that. Of, Kazim Khan charging $600-700 for a set, and if he can charge more, why shouldn't he? If there are people willing to pay up to $1,000 a set, what's wrong with that? He's not stealing from them. He's just saying a price. If they don't want to pay, it's not really a scam. Oh, okay, cool. You learned tabla from Abaji. From Calgary, Canada. Wow. Okay. It's impressive. Yeah, would love to hear your playing. You should. There's a pinned email link if you want to send in some of your playing. Would love to hear. But yeah, so that's my take on charging that. Now, as far as his tablas, do I like them? No. Not a fan. In fact, I find this skin... So there's 3 levels to skin thickness as far as I know, and this is from my own experience of just playing. There is Haridas's skin, and I think it's his son kind of that makes them these days, but I have some that he made himself. They're phenomenal. The skin of his are on the thicker side. Then you have Somnath, who makes a bit thinner skins, and then you have Kazim Khan, who makes even the thinnest skins. And the thinner you go with the skins, the worse the tete goes. It's not good. And one thing I will say about Kazim Khan is he does pay attention to detail, so there's no real issue. And you know what, Joshua, you actually make a really good point. Especially if you think about how many hours it takes to make a puri, shells, and the quality, it's a steal. Yeah, think about it. At the end of the day, why, as tabla players, are we looking for discounts for the makers? All right? They're not about to go, take that and buy, like, a BMW or something with it. Most likely, it's going to go into more research for better tabla quality, a bigger shop. So why in our own community are we looking to not pay people what they want to charge? So it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense if you think about it. So let people charge what they want to charge. So, yeah. And, yeah, he does a good job. One thing I really like is when you buy from Kazim Khan, there's one uncle that lives about 20 minutes from me. He's retired now. He doesn't really have much to do. So he just buys like a Kazim Khan set every now and then. He bought one for his son-in-law. He bought one for someone for their birthday. He bought like 2 for himself. He just likes to buy them whenever he gets the chance. And he likes to buy skins and he just likes to like tinker, basically. He has like a tabla workshop, Me and him one day we want to figure out how to put the siahi on ourselves. So this is kind of, what we're trying to do, So that's kind of how we look at it. It's probably a long thing on just charging 600 to 700. So you learn from Abaji from Calgary, Canada. Impressive. Quality's great. Yeah. So yeah, that's why I think, but I do think I saw a video recently on the channel Upaj, and it was Pandit Anindo Chatterjee and Haridas Vatkar. And man, I really wanted to get another Haridas Vatkar tabla after that. So it'd be really fun. There's something about the thickness of them that I really like. For example, I don't know if you guys have heard, but check out this 7-inch Daya. So check this out. Oh, it's heavy. This is probably 10 years old from Haridas. Skins like... So it's kind of broken, kind of all that, but it has a very thick skin. Listen to the tete. Might as well put it on the close-up camera. Awesome, you're from Mumbai. It's pretty good. So yeah, I love the thickness of the skin. You can even kind of push on it and feel how thick it kind of is. So that's what I love about their tablas. Somehow they're thicker skin, so the terikete, all this sounds good, and it's all good. I don't want to really give away prices again, to be honest. I know I just did. You can go back and look, but I don't want to keep revealing exactly what I paid, in case, they want to charge more or less or all that. But just try contacting him, and it should be fine. But I guess I already said it. So I paid for a set $650, and for just one, I paid $300. So do I have a rope bio? No. Do you have one? Should I get one of those? Is that the kind that you use? I know you use some special kind of baya. Man, next time you go to India, put in an order for me of one of those bayas too, and tell me how much it is. I really want one of those. What you were using, the kind of low kind of sounding one. It's good. It's good. One thing I will say though is Somnath, his bayas are pretty good. I can't remember what Haridas's baya sounded like, but his are pretty good. Is it costly like Haridas? Yes, all three of them cost about the same. They cost about the same, so. But I want a rope baya though. It'd be interesting. It's usually available in Banaras and Kolkata. Interesting. Yeah, it's some sort of interesting low tone you can get out of that. I like it. I remember when I first met Aranya. This was, I think, last year around this time, maybe February. I remember at that time, this buyer from Somnath was really high pitch. But then after that, we started doing so many, exercises, all the dhati genes. Finally, this baya came down. And the sound kind of sweetened up. Let's see. I have one. Let's see. Hold on. Let me read this. I have one. The old school Banaras, very tall too. Very open sound, but the definition is very low. Difficult to be expressive with it. Yeah. I bet it is. But don't you work in sound? I've seen on your channel. You did the music for Borderlands. Man, I would love if you did some videos on getting sound quality out of your tabla. You definitely know a lot with it. But yeah, you definitely have to know how to probably EQ it, maybe compress it too, and I don't know, touch a reverb. I'm just guessing, but yeah. So that definitely good Benar. Very the old school Benares, very tall too. Interesting. I'll have to look into that. I do. I just mean without sound. Oh, okay. Yeah. So that's something that definitely I'll look into. Can I if I Google rope baya, will something come up? Let's see. Rope baya tabla. No, nothing really is coming up. Oh, guess what? A video of Qasem Khan came up. Should we check this out? Let's check this out. All right, 1 second, guys. Almost like Tarakwa Khan played. Interesting. Yeah, I got to get me one of these. All right, let's see this video. Let's see if you guys can hear it. Can you guys hear this? Okay, cool. So what exactly does this rope baya do? I mean, it's not bad. It's okay. It sounds good on my headphones, that's for sure. I don't know if it sounds good to you guys, but it's not bad. Let's see what Qasem Khan has to say. Let's see. Gently, it's just the lower tension, but the puri has to be just right. What do you guys think of this baya that he just played? अपनी फील्ड के मतलब तबला बजाने के और वो उनके जितने स्टूडेंट हैं वो भी जुड़े हुए हैं तो बस ये आप लोगों का प्यार है कि जो साउंड क्वालिटी हम प्रोवाइड करते हैं कि वर्ल्ड वाइड लोग चाहते हैं और पसंद करते हैं बस हमारा बस यही चाहते हैं हम लोग आप लोग हमें दुआएं कि दुआएं हैं कि बस हम कोशिश करते हैं और But what's the difference? I mean, I know it's called a rope baya, but is it the rope that it's this rope? Or just lower tension? I guess this is new, so it's not very low tension, but this is interesting. All right, I think that's enough of that. Okay, interesting. If you guys have any other way to look up rope baya, I can look it up right now, but yeah, it sounds all right. The key thing I felt while playing that, it doesn't go down easily if you play with higher wrist pressure or a super loud cut. It doesn't go down easier. What do you mean? Okay, so it just has lower tension. So if I put a like a frequency meter to it, whatever it's called, I'm at like 77, 80 hertz on this. Would that be, we're talking 40, 50 hertz? How low are we talking? Do you guys have any idea? Or because 40, 50 hertz, those are like really low. Let's see. I'm trying to understand what Arnya is saying. If I look up Kishan Maharaj, he's playing those. All right. Definitely looking up that. Solo. All right. Very old, rare solo. Okay. Old Spice feet. Whoops. Let's skip this. Let me see. I'm still trying to understand. It doesn't go down easily if you play with higher wrist pressure or a super loud cut. What do you mean go down? It would be around 70, but it would... Oh, okay, interesting. Man, I can't believe you have to watch this ad. All right. Oh, wait, there's no video. Ah, rope Maya. Okay. Okay, this came out 4 weeks ago. Let's check this out. Man, I wish he had a YouTube channel. It'd be so much fun. The upper harmonics would have a different profile. Interesting. Yeah, I really want one now. Joshua, in your videos, is that what you use? Interesting. I can't tell a whole lot from this video. It's like an old Doordarshan video, but interesting. I bet, yeah, Shubh Maharaj is probably... They had a duet? Man, when was this? Interesting. Okay, yeah, so I'm sure that's what they're using. I'll look into it. I'll look into it a good bit. Seems interesting. So, let's see. No, I mainly use a Delhi Baya. Okay, interesting. Interesting. Yeah, I would definitely look into, this kind of Baya, because one of the hardest things to do when it comes to all this stuff, why I have all these mics, and probably Joshua, you would get it too, is getting the Baya to be heard on cell phone microphones, smartphone speakers. It's really, you have to really figure out, where to compress it. Like I'm using a multi-band compressor, not too much though, because then it ruins the audio, and it's tricky to get that sound right on a phone. It's not as easy to do as it seems, because phone speakers are so small. So that's been a trick. So maybe with one of these Bayas, it'd be a bit easier. So that's kind of, one quirk or one thing that, been working on. But yeah, I'll definitely look into one of these, and yeah, Aranya, when you get back there, whenever you visit, just let me know where I can get one. Could I get one from Muktadas? That'd be, I think I have his contact. I think I could ask him. But yeah. So if you guys had to pick one Daya from any maker, who would you pick from? If you guys had to pick. Probably after this I'll wait, I could do a poll, right? Hold on. Yeah, Muktadas should make one, not sure though. Hold on. Okay. Ask question, add option. Okay, if I had 4 tabla makers, who's your favorite maker? I guess there's Haridas Vatkar or Somnath. I guess we can only do 2. Wait. Okay. All right, let's see what happens. Who's your... Wait, why is there a yes or no? Okay, I need to figure out how to do this. Never mind, guys. Let me end that poll. But one day I will figure out. I don't know why yes and no, those aren't any tabla makers I've heard of. But yeah, I'll get the hang of this whole thing. But Muktadas should make one, not sure though. Okay. Interesting. Cool. Awesome. So, I think that's probably about it. If you guys have anything else to say, just say it briefly. Was someone supposed to send in a clip? Let me just take a look really quickly. Let me see. Nope, nobody. Okay. It's all good. Yeah, I love seeing how people play though. I find it fascinating. But most people are playing just, a bit too fast. So, yeah, it was good. Awesome, but today was good. Got to catch up with a lot of friends, a lot of peers, Anything else y'all want to say, or that's about it? We talked about rope bias, and there was also actually one other thing I heard recently in an interview, that back in the very old days, the dayas were bigger than the bayas. Now, this is from Pandit Moghe, Umesh Moghe, in an interview. He talked about back in the day that apparently dayas were around 8 inches, 9 inches, something like that. And dayas were, wait, sorry. So let me say it again. Dayas were about 8, 9 inches, and bayas were a bit smaller. So I don't know if that's true, but could be. Could be for sure. But he's written some books on the origin of tabla. I wanted to have him on, but when I started listening to what he had to say, it was a little bit too controversial. Let's call it that. A bit controversial. So probably not gonna do that. But yeah, it's been good. Thank y'all. Have a good for most of y'all, it seems like everyone's here mostly in the States. But yeah, thank y'all for watching. It's been good. I got to explain a lot, and it was a lot of fun. It's kind of boring when it's just me talking, but that's how I've been making videos for most of the time I've been doing, so I'm fine with that too. But you guys are fun. You guys are a lot of fun. So take care, and most importantly, keep practicing. All right? Take care, and goodbye.